All right, good morning. So, I don't know how long I've been doing these recordings for. I don't have them all up online or anything. But I do have a lot of them on there. And it's completely possible to go back and listen to them, even though you'll have road noise. But if you do go back and listen to them, I think what you're going to find is a person that has gone through a narcissistic relationship, figured out how to overcome it, realized that this was a much larger systemic problem, realized that it behaved very computer-like or hive-minded, and put together a list of profile specifics on what it was I was seeing, and tried to communicate that to the world along with what worked for me as a solution, but is not obviously the be-all end-all solution for everyone, but it is one step in the right direction. So 2 years ago, going through that process of healing and researching with someone else 2 years ago, this person and I had connected because of the narcissism issues, and we researched that together. So that's how we came up to the understanding that, wow, this is a repeating pattern. This is as above, so below, in the sense that you can see it in its scales, in all its different forms. That being the most nearest and dearest to our hearts, right, is in our relationships, in our families, but also in our governments and in our communities and in the world. Same pattern is in the military torture techniques and the different system. Anyway, it's everywhere. It's systemic, and you have these two dynamics that are happening, where one group is moving more towards, and but here's the beauty of it: you won't know which is which, not right out of the gate. You won't know which is which right out of the gate. The best example of this, I think it's, I'm trying to remember the exact name of the book, but it was like, I know it's H.G. Tudor, and it was something Chained, or anyway, point is, he wrote a great book, and he starts the book kind of in the middle, or it's like a part 2 book, but I read part 2. And so I didn't know the first part of the story, except I did because I lived it. And so when you read this book, it starts out, I'm not going to tell the whole storyline, but basically it's discussing a relationship, and it's crazy as hell. And this woman is like, I'm oppressed, I'm beaten, I'm a victim. And it's all projected onto the man. Anyway, throughout the book, I don't want to wreck this because it's a fantastic book and people should read it. But throughout this, you honestly think that the victim is the victim and the oppressor is the oppressor, but it's actually the reverse of what you think it is. Because everything was lies, and everything was reversed, and everything you thought that was is the opposite of what you thought it was. And so now, so 2 years ago, during this research, my friend said to me, no one will ever see this, no one will ever break free, and nobody is ever going to beat the narcissism. That's basically it's the closest thing to a profile. So I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm telling you what I've seen as a behavioral profile from my perspective, and it looks like that. Okay, so we'll just leave it at that. I mean, a few levels away from what psychopaths. And so that's kind of how, and I called it a mind virus because that's, but then you've got there's a fair amount of people in the population. Now, it's like it's spreading. It's getting weirder. Some people, I've heard people say there's a sun disease. I mean, I've heard all kinds of weird stuff, but there was a phenomenon happening. where what was more of a subtle dynamic has now become extremely polarized. Part of that's on purpose. Part of that might be a natural shifting of events. It could be the changing in the world and the planets, or it could be that what we're seeing out there is what's happening within us. And that is usually what's real. That's what's really going on. That's the trick. Okay, so bottom line, what's happening in the world now is people are seeing, like, and if you're totally out of touch, you have no idea that there is this weird revolutionary type situation happening in the world. And even if it's a contrived situation where they're trying to create havoc so that they can recreate themselves, that's possible, because that's what narcissists do. They can create havoc, and then they absorb, pull in all that energy from all the pain and suffering that happened, and then they recreate themselves and they start over again. That's how it works. The only thing that breaks that dynamic is for people to understand what that profile is, because then it can't happen again. And that's why they erase history or weaponize your history, which is one of the tactics. But yeah, so there's this event going on, and I'd say probably somewhere in the 50% or more range of the population has no idea. But they will. And so that's why I guess I'm making this recording, and I don't know, I don't really care if it's just one person that hears it. That's good enough for me. But I'm going to explain this the best I can. This is nothing to do with politics, and it has nothing to do with color, and it has nothing to do with gender. If you were a lollipop, they would say lollipops are bad, okay? It just doesn't matter. It's just a label. None of it. It's all irrelevant. It doesn't matter, because it really doesn't matter, and here's why. This behavioral profile uses your fears against you. It looks to those things that you feel deficient in, and it weaponizes that against you. And I'm going to give you a dynamic. I'm in the same boat as everyone else at work, in a fairly male-dominated industry. I don't walk in the door with that feeling. I'm totally not really impaired by it. I don't talk about it. It doesn't oppress me. It can periodically annoy me, but for the most part, I come to the table feeling like an equal and projecting that I'm an equal. And I get a hell of a lot farther than the people that don't. Does that completely change the dynamic? Nope. But how the hell am I supposed to change that dynamic when most of the people there are projecting that they're a victim? Now, if all of us were in alignment, that we're equals, that's going to message out. It's going to message out in the body language, and it's going to message out in the quantum field, in this mind field. Rupert Sheldrake's done a lot of work on, and they call it the morphic field. But there's a lot of communications that are happening that people don't understand. They don't get it, because everything's in reverse. And so you were taught to believe that your conscious mind is where it's at. Well, no, it's not. Your subconscious mind is what's dominant, not your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind is what's ruling your day-to-day interactions and actions and thought processes. But that, telling you that would be, detrimental to a group that wants to rule through fear, okay? Because they're scared, so they're projecting. You're going to hear projecting a lot in the coming months. So basically, you have people that are starting to break free, and this friend that said no one's ever going to catch on, it's like I'm holding that belief that yes, we can, and yes, we can fix this. But we can't fix it until we fix ourselves. And that's the same dynamic that you have in the narcissistic relationship. Can you fix them? No. But you can fix you. You can fix you and hold space for them to fix themselves, because no one can fix anyone else. No one can control anyone else. It's all an illusion. Every dynamic that this group of people, or this group of whatever, this mind virus effect has, in every instance that I've seen, in every aspect of it, even down to the tax plan, they have to get your permission every single time. In the language that they modify, they do it for a reason, because consent is suffering. Look up suffering. Okay? It's consent. Your language has been modified. Your history has been modified. What's weaponized against you is all the things that you fear inside, that you feel inadequate about, the things that make you angry, the people that have harmed you in your past, the beliefs that you hold. All of that is weaponized against you. Not by your government, but by every person in all the people in your world. There are people like this that are all throughout your world. There are people throughout in your marriages, your relationships. If I gave you the list of this profile, guarantee you that you know someone. Guarantee you that you know at least one that would relatively fit this. There's a scale. There's a scale of bad. But yeah, my friend said no, they're never going to get it. I've been screaming it from the rooftops. I've been trying to tell everybody. And then there was Narcissists that came out and said, yeah, we actually exist. This is how we think. And people are like, thank God, this finally makes sense now. Part of the reason it didn't make sense to people is because the way the psychologists were explaining it, they were explaining it from their own point of view, which was empathy-based. Empathy. They could see that there wasn't empathy, but they couldn't think like they did. And so once you started listening to the narcissist say, yeah, this is how we think, it is so messed up and maniacal. And they see nothing wrong with it. Because kindness is weakness. When you're nice, you get hurt. And some of them are like that, it seems like, right out of the gate. And other ones develop it after trauma. Who knows? There's varying levels. There's a manual that was written by some of the darkest hearted people. And I'm not going to say they all are, but there were definitely, these people were in the mix. Why? Because they've always been in the mix. They've always been in the mix. The bottom line is, to me, is they're just straight disconnected from the heart. They're disconnected from the heart space. And we can't fix that unless we can fix us. Period. They have no hope of fixing it, guarantee you. There's no hope of fixing it. And when you talk to all the doctors, the one thing they'll all agree on, there's no fixing this. You can't fix this. I don't agree. I don't agree with that. But I do agree with the fact that, yeah, we have absolutely no chance of fixing it until we fix ourselves. And here's why. Because as long as they're still triggering us emotionally to behave erratically, to make us dance like puppets on their heartstring tugging, as long as they're like, oh, you poor black guy, you're suffering, oh, you poor suppressed woman, we'll be here for you, it's bullshit. Because nobody can help you but you. End of story. Nobody. They can give you a hand, but in the end, you gotta pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You gotta be the one. And how do you do that? Actually very simple. You gotta look within you for everything outside of yourself that pisses you off. When something pisses you off, your first question needs to be, what about that makes me upset? And how does that make me feel? And when did I first have a feeling like that? How do I remove that? How do I make peace with that? How do I process forgiveness for that? For my own good. Everything here is very trap-like. Everything is backwards. Nothing's what you think it is. And that's the one thing that, as I started to wake up to, once I realized the narcissism, and I had to process my own stuff. It took like 2 years. And then I figured out the fast way. And then I tried to share everybody the fast way. And of course, shadow banned like hell on every possible social media outlet, because there's no way they're going to let it out. Which is okay. because in time, it'll make sense. And that process isn't going anywhere. And people are going to need it. They're going to need it, and they're going to need all the other people that are really good at trying to help people look within and heal. Because they have to. So anyway, here we are. 3 years later, and now everybody's talking about narcissism. They're realizing that it's a method of suppression. That there's something very, very wrong. Except for both sides are looking at each other and pointing at each other and saying, you're the problem. Not true. Why is that? Because everything that is outside of yourself is something that you can correct inside of yourself. And the only way to make the change on the outside is from the inside. Chinese finger puzzle. The only way out is in. Everything is mirrored. Why would your life be any different? Your subconscious mind is what's in control. Taxes aren't mandatory, they were voluntary at the beginning. Most of your language is designed to trick you into thinking it means the opposite of what it means. Agent means not a gentleman. Suffer means to consent. If you look at the tax language, it tells you what isn't qualified to be required to do the taxes. It doesn't tell you what is. It's giving you the opposite so that your brain will fill in the blanks. It's just one example. Holy smokes, I could give so many. I would be here all day. But things aren't what you see, what you think they are. Everybody wants to fix it. Oh, this world's so broken. You gotta fix you. All the psychologists that go get into school so that they can help others to make themselves feel better. It's backwards. You should have fixed yourself first before you sought to help others. So that otherwise it's just like contagious problems. So, what am I saying? I'm saying that as all the political stuff rolls out and people they're going to freak. They're going to freak out. They have no idea that the world is changing right under their feet. And it's going to be like an overnight. You're going to realize that nothing's what it seems. That the people you thought were glorious and heroes are the monsters and the maniacs. And the people that you thought were the monsters and maniacs were doing their absolute best to save your life. Literally. But everything is energy. So don't fear. Your fear is what's kept you the puppet on the string. And everything can boil down to fear and love. Not hate, because hate's a byproduct of fear. So as these things come out, people are going to experience severe cognitive dissonance, which means I can't accept that's true. Welcome to the narcissist victim's world. We went through that, I don't know how long. Listen to the stories. Go listen to the stories. You want to know what happened to this world? Go look up narcissist victims on YouTube and listen to them. Listen to them. It's on a scale. What's happened to them in that relationship level is what's been going on in the world. This person's not who I thought they were. They lied about everything. Everything they told me was a lie. They stole all my money. They left me for broke. They controlled me. They wouldn't let me go to work. They wouldn't let me see my friends. They isolated me. They categorized me. Then they just disappear. They promised me everything and nothing ever paid out. They were cruel. They abused me verbally. They abused me physically. It didn't start out that way. Everything was great at first. I'm not going to name names politically. Not going to do it. Not this time. Not going to go there. Because it's not the point of it. You will get lured in with false promises. They'll treat you like you're amazing. They'll make you feel like you're worth $1 million. Tell you how important you are. Meanwhile, subtly using language and weaponizing your history against you. To make you think somehow that you're the victim, and to make you think, to make you trigger emotionally on the things that affect you the most. Today, we call those issues. What are the issues? What are the issues of the political debates? Who cares? It's the same party. It's one big party. And you ain't in it. One big club and you ain't in it. Now, not everybody is bad, just like in the world, not everybody is bad, but this thing, whatever it is, this phenomenon, whatever it is, perhaps we just have two different kinds of humans out there. But this dynamic is significant, and what's going to happen is, the part that I worry about is just the total meltdown of the cognitive dissonance as things unfold. Because I want to sit in the truth. And the truth is not always what you want it to be. But the truth is what is. It's that which you can, verify. And that makes sense. Because often when you're in a narcissistic relationship, which is really what the world's been in, this narcissistic relationship between two different types of people. And we as the victims who have been empathy bound, right? Oh, I feel for these people, they're coming in and I want to help them. Oh wait, it's a Trojan horse. Oh shit. But you will not believe it. Nah, there's no way. You will not believe it. They control everything you're told because you're isolated. And you're isolated by the media. That's how it's been done on a political level. On a relationship level, you're basically guilt and shamed into the ground, really not allowed to go anywhere. And it's not that they say you can't go anywhere or have any friends, but they make it so miserable for you that you don't. Okay? Just like shaming the shit out of you for saying, hey, I want to have an opinion. Okay. It's the same thing. And so that's where you get all the social media weaponization. That gets into a whole nother category. That will be a whole nother video altogether. Recording, whatever. But basically, the world's been in this relationship, this narcissistic relationship, and the concern is that because everybody truly believes, and I'm telling you right now, there are amazingly good people on both sides. There are amazingly good people on both sides. And I bet you when everybody sits down and really sits down and lays it out, everybody's going to want mostly the same thing. Except for the sick fucks that have been sucking the energy out of us this whole time. And it's on purpose. You ever wonder to yourself, what kind of sick person would, sit and watch a cockfight or a dog fight? You ever sat there and wonder, why would people get off on watching two animals, kill each other? What's wrong with these people? If you're the person that's asking what's wrong with these people, then you're on the right page. If you think that's awesome and cool, you need to probably, you're either in that mind virus bracket, or you need to really recheck back in with your heart. Because compassion is the key out of this mess. It's critical. And so as people start to wake up and realize that the reality they thought it was isn't, because that's coming out, whether you like it or not. It's coming out. And that's going to be very painful for people to swallow, and that is why I'm doing this recording. And I can't even scratch the surface of how complicated this all is. I'm going to do this in a way that I'm not pointing fingers as best as I can, because I need it to be heard by both sides. The awake people already kind of get it, but they're still so angry at people that have been duped. And I've seen this before. I've seen it where a person in a responsible function was tricked, and one of the people that was relying on that person was angry, and they're like, how can this happen? How can this happen? And all I could say was, you cannot understand the depth and the breadth of how good the deviant-minded are at turning everything around on you. Projection, mirroring, reflection. Gosh, some narcissists research the hell out of people before they even date them. Or while they're dating them, they spend that first year researching the hell out of you so that they know exactly what things will hurt you. It's deliberate, it is unintentional, and they know what they're doing. So why do we need so many social media storing your data? Because then they can categorize you and figure out what things make you. They can put you into a bucket. Oh, how many people have had abortions? Okay. How many people have had knee injuries? Okay, well, ship them off to the advertising agents. And, it's like, well, what was the story behind that? Okay, well, so we'll do this, like, poor sob story about whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. Just be super broad in your thinking. How could they screw with you by knowing everything about you? Now think about if they took everybody else with your issue and lumped you into a bucket, they would know exactly how to manipulate you into sales, into voting, into contributing funds to charities. The narcissist does that in a relationship. In the political sphere, it's being done through a corporate body. Not a corporate body of spirit, but a corporate body of hive mind type thinking. The hive mind is terrified of independent thought because it presents a real threat to a hive mind. And from what we could see, a lot of the narcissistic groups do operate like a hive mind. In fact, one of the people that was one came out and said, this is almost like AI. This is really interconnected. Who knows what has been built over the civilizations? Who knows what's underlying in this fabric of our mechanics? Who knows? One thing I can tell you for sure, we don't know our real history. Guaranteed. We don't know it. Believe what you want. You're free to believe it, and I honor your belief and the ability to believe what you want to believe. But in the end, I'm going to stand by the opinion that we don't know our history. So you can't. If we're building AI now, there's no one to say that it hasn't been done before, and that we're challenged by something like that. Who knows? In the end, it doesn't matter, because really the only way out is in, and that means that what's really triggering you, it's really affecting you. How can you take your power back? Observe it. Just look at the data. Just look at it. Step out of your body. Step out of your emotions. Just put it all down. Imagine you're just a ball of energy. You don't have form. You don't have skin color. You don't have a gender. You don't have you have nothing. It's just you in this energetic form. And step back and just look at it. Look at it as if you were a robot. Just look at it like you were just looking at data to process it. And observe it without any emotion. Nothing. Just look at it. Does it make sense or not? As this stuff comes out, there's going to be massive quantities of data. that is going to roll out and show you that you've been lied to in every aspect of your life. Everything you thought. And the first stage of the narcissism is this disbelief thing, right? No, that's not possible. This person loves me. They told me so. Actions, not words. Now just back up. Observe it. What did they do? What did they actually do? These are the questions we have to ask people as this stuff breaks, as they freaking out, as they're running the labels and the narratives. We just have to say, what did they do? Use your mind. Go back and look at it. Tell me what they did to help you. What did they do to help you? Did they really do that? Did they follow through on their promises? Did they do that? How did they really vote? What really happened there? You know, who's being paid, and by who, and by and why? Well, I love that person. I can't possibly be. I can't tell you how many people, you know, even knowing everything that I knew, even after everything I've been through, my level of shock at some of the people that turned out to be horrific monsters, still staggering. After all the research. And now, my friend might be surprised to know that there's an awful lot of people that know what narcissism is. And there's a lot of people that are taking their power back. And he told me it couldn't be done. And I said, I refuse to believe this because I believe in humanity. I believe in the good in people. And I know that there's a group of people out there that aren't good. But I also know that there's no way to help heal them unless we heal ourselves. Some of you are like, to hell with them, they're monsters. Okay. But we're still a unit. This is one planet. We got to deal with it. Or the problem continues. You can kick them to the curb and say the hell with them. They're monsters. Fuck them. But this is the kind of people that if you don't fix the problem, if you don't find a way to heal that, you know, that toxicity re-rises up. It comes back up. It's like it's doing, you know, the whole Hitler thing, and that's all coming back. Here's why. I'm going to tell you. Narcissist victim leaves narcissistic relationship, finally musters up the courage, walks out. Family, friends say, we're going to rescue you and pull you out of this relationship. Oh my God. And they leave. The narcissist reinvents themselves to that person, hoovers them back, and they take them back. They go back to the relationship over and over and over again. Now, let's say they do break it off, and they do get away. Then the next step is they feel like, oh, I'm so much stronger, I'm so much smarter, and I get out of this relationship. But the fact is that, guess what happens with the next relationship? They end up in the same type of relationship. Why is that? Because the problems will keep circling back to you, and they will keep circling back to you. There's nobody that I know of that can say that they don't have this weird recurring pattern in their life of something that bothers them. Something bothers them, and it keeps happening. There's going to be something, and because it's this it's like an electromagnetic thing. Something about the thought patterns. There's a trauma there, something that's occurred that's still rolling around in the subconscious mind, which is what's running everything. But you don't know how to access that because, you know, that was disabled in, you know, the training a long time ago. Can't have you in control of yourself. That'd be bad. So that problem will keep manifesting in your life, and it keeps coming back. So if you don't address the issues with your narcissist, you can get out of the relationship. But if you don't address the issues in yourself, because it's a very electromagnetic world. If you don't look inside of yourself, you will attract that back until the lesson has been learned, until that trauma has been healed. It will keep coming back in an effort to gently keep encouraging you to face your problem and face your fear and face this thing that bothers you. It's very easy to just, it's too easy to just say, I'm a victim. It's too easy. Not only is it easy, it's a crutch. It's a cop-out. I'm a victim is a fucking cop-out. I'm an oppressed woman. Bullshit. No, you're not. Has that happened to you in the past? Fine, but you're in the now moment. Your power is right now, not in the past, not in the future. Well, my women have been oppressed for years. Who fucking cares? You're you, right? You're you. So if you want to project weakness to everybody because your ancestors were weak, I'm sorry, there's a lot of women CEOs right now. So, body language is 70% of communication. So what I'm saying is, as this stuff rolls out, people are going to be in shock. People are going to have cognitive dissonance. They're not going to want to believe it. This is not going to be an overnight fix, especially at a population level. So the people that have broken out need to look within if they're still in rage and still anger at the people that have been confused, people that are, we've been polarized. The people that right now have the best chance at compassion are the people that are awake and do know what's been done to the other half of the world. We have done that. No matter how much heckling and treatment, we have remained adult, and we've remained, for the most part, passive and calm, and we've really tried to educate instead of attack, even when being attacked. That dynamic. We need to keep doing that. Keep gently pushing information, but we cannot expect people to move out of this at the rate we want them to. They have to process this in their own way, in their own time. They got to know how. And the answer to how is to look inward. That is the solution. People can argue with me all day, but I can actually show you real changed people that have actually really moved out of this. People that are still in narcissistic relationships that are happy and they don't care because they feel like a complete person. The other person, to the extent of they're not dangerous or whatever, because they can be. And if the person's just kind of lower tiered narcissism, then they do fine. They can just deal with it. It annoys them, but it entertains them because they see through it now. And they don't need another person to feel complete. They're whole. The only way to that is to work on yourself. So if some politician somewhere is triggering you on, oh my gosh, your XYZ profile, and so your ancestors for this many years have been da-da-da-da, I'm not my ancestors. Okay? I'm me, and you don't get to define me, I do. And I'm not going to have my fears of being insufficient, which you've been projecting on me on purpose for years, be a string that you get to pull me around on like a puppet. I'm nobody's puppet. I won't be. I'm my own person. I'm going to think the way I want. I'm not going to be told how to think. It's very dangerous to a hive mind. Very dangerous. The now moments where it's all at. They want you to live in the past. They want you to hope for a future that they're never going to give you. Because then you don't pay attention to what's actually going on. So we got to leave all the emotions at the door and look at what's going to be coming out. And we got to look at it, for the most part, as a neutral observer Just check everything you think, everything you've ever been told, everything you've ever thought, everything you've ever known at the door, and be just like when you start a new video game, if you're a gamer, just forget everything you knew from the last game, because this is a totally different model that's going to be shown to you. But it's what's been going on, and it's going to be horrible and hard to swallow. After that, that's when the real healing helps is going to start, because we got to start realizing that our problems aren't the guy across the room that has a different shirt or hat or whatever. It's in us. If we're the victim, it's because we've chosen to see ourselves as that. Bottom line. So, I don't know. I'm going to have to do more of these, a lot more of these, because we're at the crux of this information coming out, and the most important thing is for people to not freak out. But they will, because that's the way it's going to be. And the people that are awake are going to have to really hold their space, keep calm, keep educating, be patient, and know that these people have been victims. No matter how much you might dislike them and the things they've said, they've been victims. And they're going to drive us insane, because they won't want to see what you're going to show them, and they're not going to want to see this, and they're still going to reject it. But they will eventually come around. Just can't give up on them. Don't give up on your mankind, okay? On your brothers and sisters in this world. And that's how we get out of this. Okay, I gotta go in. So, bye.